Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're ready. I think we're ready. Welcome to the Flycast. This is the one and only Fly Captain John, and I am Steve-O, the DMO, or Steve, or Hey Fucker. I go by lots of different names, but I welcome you to say hallelujah, for it is time for the Flycast show. Take it away, John.
But yeah, we just wanted to go ahead and do that whole thing, stream it, record it, get it out there, go ahead and throw it on the YouTubes later and whatnot, so should be fun. We've got a topic for kind of us to just kind of go back and forth with, and then got some questions from the community, and then anybody who's in chat want to go ahead and throw in questions or whatever, we'll certainly go ahead and feed off of that as well. Nice art. Yeah, Megan, my wife, made the artwork, as, you know, she does. I was like, I don't know what we should do for, like, a background or whatever, and she was like, it would be kind of fun to have you guys as, like, cartoon characters or whatever, and I was like, that's a fantastic idea. Do you want to do that in, like, 24 hours? And she was like, yep, sure, why not?
I mean, we are cartoon characters.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's just a given. I think you're more of an adult than me, but I'm going to be a cartoon character probably till the day that I die.
I mean, that's not necessarily hard to do.
No, I think we've been talking about this for a while. Oh, yeah. Hey, man, I think part of adulthood is recognizing who you are, your flaws, and then just sometimes just fucking rolling with it.
Right.
So, I know we've been talking about this off and on, like, ever since last year once you got married, because I was like, you know, we should do this. And then, like, of course, marriage works and all that stuff, you know, just kind of
kind of busy.
Gets in there.
But yeah, with you streaming the other day, just asking questions in chat, it was like, we should just finally do it. So that's the plan.
It was time. Just more content for everybody too, and then once we gets it on the YouTubes, oh shoot, I should probably watch my language. We don't want demonetization, do we?
Oh, that doesn't matter. Who cares?
Okay,
you be you. I mean, I'm pretty sure you have to have an audience to be monetized to begin with on YouTube. Once we're monetized, we can worry about being demonetized.
That's fair. I was just thinking ahead because I watch a lot of YouTube content myself. That's like a lot of my entertainment. Whether it's any kind of TV, I love YouTube because I like the blurbs, or I like the hour-long podcasts, like, you know, like this.
Yeah, segment. For sure.
So I do that on YouTube all the time.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're doing. We just kind of want to share some knowledge and whatnot. So we are just kind of gonna talk a little bit about different themes for each episode. Today's theme is basically like just talking a little bit about different game styles, specifically an open world game versus a very heavy narratively driven game. Just kind of going back and forth in some ideas that we had for kind of themes. It just made sense with I mean, that's one of the biggest differences between us as DMs, right, is I really like to create a big wide open world and let my players explore it. You know, I like to make a D&D version of like an Elder Scrolls game or whatever.
Right.
Whereas Steve really he's obviously not against that, but he really likes to craft a narrative, and not necessarily railroad players, but like have everything serving that narrative, and going off of that. So that's kind of the topic that we were going to start off with. So, like, I guess, I mean, I think I kind of already answered it, but when I had kind of addressed this topic, one question that I got early on was, okay, so when you say open world versus narrative driven, what does that mean? And I think, I think we kind of already touched on that, but if there's anything you wanted to add.
I think with what it was is when we first started DMing, Like you, and I learned a lot from you, because like when you first made your world, it was just ginormous, and
Yeah.
it was really impressive too. And then I tried to do that to a certain degree, but I think with my acting background and my performing
Yeah.
background, I think that's where I go a little bit more story on. But I like both. I've even admitted several times one of my weaknesses is world building. My last game, I actually had the players, help build the world, because I think it was the
Yeah.
first game that I've ran that didn't have, it had an idea, but it didn't have an overarching narrative yet. It just didn't. It was the first time that happened. So I found a map and I was like, hey guys, where are you from?
Mhm.
I bought into getting you guys to help me build the world, and to me that just kind of like, one, it helped me build buy-in, I feel.
Yeah.
But with your creativity though, like it's like one of the things, like in, like you put out a questionnaire, is like one of the places, what are one of the places you want to see in my world? And I'm like, I'm pulling a Tracy, and I'm like, I want to go to Kifnor because we've never been there.
Right.
It's just like Myth Draenor, I'd assume, or at least have something like that in the Forgotten Realms. So I think there's good points in both styles, and like things that I know you and I, when we were rooming together, we'd stay up after games and just like, shoot the shit about, hey, what was good about this, what was good about that, and just really just building ideas and taking or borrowing from each other. So, and it just
Yeah.
helped build both styles of games.
Yeah, I agree. I think
So
it's really cool. You're like letting the players help with building the world. I think that's
right,
one drawback to the way that I do things. Although, like, sometimes I let that happen, right?
right,
But yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of one
absolutely,
drawback to having everything like the world built
pre-made,
already. Is the
yeah,
players don't
pre-made,
necessarily get to do that, which I think that was actually really cool when, like, I mean, I was playing Rupert in your game, and you're like, oh, where is he from? And I'm like, this place, and you're like,
yeah,
okay, cool,
yeah,
I'll decide whatever that means later. Like,
right,
I think that's pretty cool. I try and do that some, but that is sometimes kind of difficult with having built things out. But like, I think
right,
that's one of the things that I learned early on that is a classic mistake of a world builder such as myself. If you haven't done it before, if you haven't run a game before and haven't really like built a world out or anything like that, building too much too quickly is a huge mistake. Like for me, I know that was kind of how I scratched the itch when I didn't have a game to play or run. I would just kind of start building this world and
building,
start working on it, and that was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, but like I started getting really into the nitty gritty. Like I would
mm-hmm.
be reading the DM guide and whatnot, and it's like, okay, well, if you're building a city, here's some things to think about, like government structure and like how does all this work. And I remember actually putting all that together for like every town in the kingdom of Granada, and then being like, oh, well, I should probably do that for this kingdom as well. And like,
right.
that's all cool and whatnot, but like by the time that we played session one, it was like, wait, what was the name of this person? I have no idea. I don't even
Yeah,
know where that
yeah,
note is.
yeah.
Like,
You're
so I
like,
think that's
uh.
like, well, that's really cool, and I'm glad that I like have made the mistake and can move forward now. Like, I think it's a great idea to, even as a world builder, have like the overarching idea of like what your world is, like maybe even have some kingdoms
Right.
named and some like points of interest here and there, but like don't build out too much at once. Just build where the players are right now. And I think through like, despite the fact that I have a map, I have my world made where like the world of Eberron has 3 continents on it, and then there's
Yeah.
some islands here and there as well that you guys have been to here and there. You guys know what the 3 continents are like. Even you know that there's the main continent of Koplesh, which is where you guys have been on a lot. There's the continent of Zikrath, which, as Steve would say, sucks because it does.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, but it's like, yeah. I mean, if you're playing a character, and because I like method acting and stuff like that. When you're in character and you're playing in that world, I'll put myself in the character's role because you're
Right.
my DM.
Yeah.
So like, if you're in this, and I'm the king of losing characters in John's world. I think Sparky's the only one that's probably beaten me.
Yeah.
but like so that continent was designed to be difficult. It was, and
Yeah.
he even did a good job of setting that narrative up front with us. So when you're trying to play the character, and I sometimes get real guilty of playing that character. I know on Zikrath, I mean, he died twice. Veil of Shadows died twice. Cool
Yeah,
character,
yeah.
very
Yeah,
cool
well,
character.
and then after Vale, you couldn't stop baiting me with Vac. I
Yeah,
don't know how many
no,
times I
yeah.
dropped you, but I never killed him.
Oh, so
Um,
that was fun. Yeah, that was
but like
fun.
you know that continent, and then the third one, like no one's ever actually. Well, I think you guys went there once in Torchbearers, but the continent of Eidos, which you probably know the least
Yeah,
about, but that's more of like a jungle continent and whatnot. So like the players know all that. The players know that on Copla specifically, there's the Kingdom of Granada, where most of my games have taken place for the most part. But you also know about the Kifnor elves as well as the Ayabel elves, which are wood elves that are closer by. You know about the Dwarven Kingdom of Korgdor. You guys have been there
right,
once. So like you know all this, but it doesn't have to be fully fleshed out. And like I've learned that like we've spent so much time in Granada, like that's starting to get pretty well fleshed out, especially the capital city of Stormcastle, because you guys have
right,
spent so much time there with the Dragon Heist game. But like Stormcastle wasn't built out until I started doing the Dragon Heist game. I knew some stuff that was there.
right.
So like I think that's something that I've learned is even in the world builder mindset, you gotta limit yourself or you'll start making notes that don't make any sense. Like I've
Right.
got a whole bunch of names of like politicians in Granada that I've just tossed. Like the names sucked, their positions didn't make any sense. Like so,
Right.
I think that's
See,
got to be
that's
kind
where
of flexible.
I think that's where I differed when I did Athens, because Athens was like a huge metropolis, and what I did with that is because I knew it was too, at least for my style, I knew it was too much for me to build the whole damn thing out. So what I did on the opposite end was I just used a picture for like theater of the mind. I had a name generator and a shop generator, and then I would make, and then if the character's like, oh, I want to do this, and I would generate a name, and then I'd be, it's this district. They would go there without having to put them on the map. Just so that way, it was a little bit. I think that's the Perkins in me, just kind of
Yeah.
going a little bit more theater of the mind, and then I would come up with some stupid voice on the fly, So a little bit more on the improv there. So
Yeah,
like,
because you like to. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
You like to use because like I like to make maps and make everything make sense. Like if I've got a map of something or a picture of something, like it's got to make sense as to like I can get there in that picture or whatever.
Right.
Which I think hinders me some. Like I think something that you like to do a lot is you like to get like feeling pictures, if that makes sense. Like, which
Yeah.
I think that's really good, especially with the way that you do things. Like, the something that comes to mind is like in like Curse of Strahd, even like in that book, there are certain pictures that kind of like evoke a certain feeling
setter.
that like a tone setter. Yeah, exactly. That it's like, well, I don't know if you can like get to that building. I don't know, like what's there. Let's roll a thing and find out. I think that's kind of cool. Have you ever felt like the temptation or desire to like actually plan out what shops are in a city or like what items that shop has available or anything like that?
Never. I never have. I've went with maybe I shouldn't say never. I think what I've done with that is I think, and I took this from, I think, the Dungeons Master's Guide actually, is I use the size of a town to determine what would possibly be there. If it's
Mm,
like a village, I mean, you might be lucky to have a leather worker, a blacksmith, maybe a flesher.
yeah.
If you have like a large town, I mean, you're going to have more general goods, probably slightly better things, maybe. And then like you get your cities and then your metropolises. Like your cities, clearly you might get lucky and find like an expert craftsman who might be able to come across something, but magic is still fairly limited. So that way you're not, the player is like, well, I just want to buy up the town and all of its magic items. And then,
Right.
like major metropolises, yeah, you might be able to find some magic items, but they're expensive. Or maybe you have to go on a quest or something to find a key ingredient, which you've done that before for
Yeah.
Grady's for Grady's hand
The
thing.
hidden blade,
So,
yeah.
the hidden blade.
the Assassin's Creed ripoff.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say. Good DMs come up with stuff, and great DMs steal notoriously. I don't know.
Yeah, hey, everyone I've learned from just steals as much as they can. So that's what I do.
Everybody. They take from everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that's what, like, I've thought about doing that. I'm probably going to have to do that to a certain degree for the next game, because the next campaign is a module that I threw out there. Not necessarily a module, but a setting for you guys. And it's completely foreign to me. Like, I've read some of it, I've studied some of it, but it's hard for me to sit down and just read. It's not in my make. So I'm probably going to have to sit down. I may have to find some of the cities, and then if I don't do theater of the mind, at least have some detailed notes to be like, this is where such and such is. Here's where such and such is, because there's going to have to be key points in this next game in particular. We got 7 players this time, and I can manage that. That's not a big deal to me, but I think that'll help me with not keeping it as open, because I can keep them moving. And instead of be like, because I know Jordan's like, well, the first time, I think I read something, he's like, the first time you say, what do you guys want to do? And everybody wants to split. And even then, that's a rabbit hole that I might consider, because that's fun.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of an interesting point, because I think that, like, that question right there is kind of indicative of the two different styles as well. Because, like, in my games, you hear that question a lot. Like, I have set the stage. What do you guys want to do? I'm not going to tell you what to do. That I don't care what you do. Well, I kind of care, but, like, that's a question I'm posing to you. Like, I kind of put it like this. So, like, when things stall, or, like, there's been some, like, party discussion and whatnot, and now everyone's just kind of there, my natural inclination is to say, okay, what do you guys want to do now? Whereas I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from playing in your games anyway, I feel like your natural inclination in that spot is to just skip that step entirely and put us wherever we're clearly going to go next.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. I was talking to you earlier about some of the questions. It's like some of it might be hard for me to explain, because a lot of times it's a feeling. It's I react based on what you guys do, or I'll probably have some kind of plot, somewhere, but like let's just use we'll just use Toral for instance. The very beginning of the game, and and I even told you guys, like, at first it was really open, like you were here, you got to this small island of turtles, and you basically enslaved them for potatoes. That's funny. And after that, it was I had right. I made a small note of, like, there's this, because, like, all right, how do I get the players to go somewhere else, right? Because now this world's pretty big. And I came up with an idea on it with one of the maps that I found. It was like basically it was like a teleportation circle. Let's be honest, level 2 party can't really do that. But I made a mechanic to where it would just drain you of your slots if you did it, and it was random. So if, like, you rolled a certain number, you were going to go to wherever you wanted to go. And which you're like, I remember you saying, well, I want to go back to the Akkadian Empire. No problem. I already had in my mind what was going on in the Akkadian Empire. No big deal. I also had a couple other places that I kind of pre-planned out, at least, like, some paragraphs here and there about what's going on. And once you guys didn't make the roll, it was random from there. And then and it just so happened to land on the halfling village. And there was a mage tower there, and it just all
so, like,
just
when you do something like that, where, like, oh, well, there's a random choice or random chance that you could end up in these different places, like, you actually let that actually be random, or do you guide it behind the scenes?
No, that was random, because what I did when I did my planning session was I knew there was a possibility of about maybe 4 places you could go based off your guys' character backgrounds, where you said you were from. So what I had to do, and this is, I think it takes a little bit more work on my end, but this is where the creativity comes from. I had to build some encounters and stuff for each of these sections with just enough to keep me like, this is what's going on in this area, and then kind of free flow off of that with like something that's a major point to see what you guys would do, and then go from there. So I had Rupert's thing done, I had the Halfling Village done, and I do believe I had stuff going on in Athens, because those were the three main places that you guys could go, because you guys wouldn't want to go to Sparta. I did have that planned, though. If you did end up going there, now it's like, we're going incognito. We got to find a way to get out. We can take information back there. I had that whole thing just kind of like in the background there, just a mini narrative, and then, setting up things per session. And then when you guys did that, I did, the only thing that really kind of cucked me planning-wise is there was this mage tower there. And I set it pretty hard to where I didn't think you guys would be able to find the entrance, because I had a knoll problem. I was going to use that to try to generate some experience, help win over some townsfolk. No, you guys wanted to go immediately into the tower. And the only problem with that was I think you guys were maybe level 2 or 3.
I think we were 2.
It was designed for like 4 and 5. And I was like, oh, shit, because it was huge. And it got pretty rough there for a minute, but you guys did good. I mean, you guys did good. I think it's just one of those times. I think I called it a little early. I went back to the drawing board and I just tried to make some small adjustments, and it turned out to be really cool. Because then from there, it was one of those happy mistakes where now I've got a narrative. Now I've got like, hey, they can meet Elminster, they can get a couple magic items. There was a lot of things, taking the lemons and making a lot of lemonade from it. I think flexibility is key. And just sometimes, and I've even done it on stream, where I've had a sheet of notes in my hand, I just crunch it up and just throw it behind me, because it's done. It's done. But that's part of the adventure for me. So it was definitely random, but it just took off in a really cool direction from there, which I love that.
That's interesting, because I've done it both ways. Like I've had it to where like, yeah, you can go multiple directions, and like depending on where you go, like like I'll actually like have different things. But I've also done it before to where no matter where you go, like this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like
there's an
I
end
think
goal, right?
I think the Outlaws campaign was a good example, because like when you guys first embarked into the North Sea, I was actually trying to plan out each individual island on the map, and how it was going to go whenever you got there. And I did that for Guiren Island, and I think one or two of the other ones. But then at a certain point I realized like I just didn't have time to plan out each island. So what I did was I planned what I did was I planned the next idea, and then it was like, well, whatever island you go to, like this is what's going to be there. It doesn't matter. So I think like that's and I will never let you guys know which of the two ways I'm going to do it, but like just that's I mean good, you got to keep that. Yeah. Got to keep the you
got to keep a few secrets.
Yeah. But
you can't do it.
When I kind of realized that I could do that was really freeing, because for me, like, it's interesting. I'm not, in a lot of areas, I'm not really a detail-oriented person, but with this, I am.
Yes,
like, I need to know,
are.
if something is there, I need to know that it's there. And part of that is because I'm just nowhere near as good of an improver as you are. But, like, so, like, if I try and... Like, I mean, I had like a dozen islands that you could go to. It was just too much to plan. So when I was just like, screw it, no matter where they go, the next island, there's going to be like there. So
exactly. So like, no matter where you end up being at, I mean, that'll save you a lot of planning time anyway. And just be like, well, this is what's going to happen. Or flip a coin, because you already got it made. So as long as your narrative's solid, doesn't necessarily matter where they're going. You just change the name of it. I think I learned that actually from a YouTube podcast, where like a DM was upset, and because he was and I think some DMs struggle with this too. You have this big dungeon. You've planned all this. What?
Jordan, it was frustrating thinking the Outlast game was an open thing and then realizing it wasn't.
Yeah, it was to a degree.
Jordan. It totally was. He's being Jordan.
Being an ass. I lost my train of thought.
Hey, I didn't say it.
That's fine. I love him. No, I'm sorry. This is the prep response. Fuck you, Jordan. There. He likes
Fair
that.
enough. Fair enough.
He likes that. But
it wasn't open. Yes, it was.
There's some places like you can only open it up so much because like if you like,
I was being serious. How are we being serious? You could literally go anywhere at any time. Go ahead, Steve. Keep going.
But there's some directions like, and I've tried opening things, but like if it's too open, then and I've even talked to Jordan about this. It's like if it's too open and you don't have it created yet, you're kind of in a pickle, and then you're really trying to fly by the seat of your ass, and that can be difficult. Fortunately, with Fantasy Grounds, I can make an encounter pretty quickly. But if I was at the table, I would probably be a little flustered. I'd be like, okay, I gotta give me 10 minutes. I just need to do some reading. And I would openly say that. I'd be like, give me about 10 minutes, guys. Go do something. Smoke your smokes, drink your drinks, whatever. But I would probably take a few minutes to, reevaluate and come up with that. But I totally lost my train of thought there. But I think
no worries.
I think that whole the open world is something I would like to try again. I mean, honestly, I think with Toril, it was designed to be open to a point because there was this overarching thing, but in those early levels, it's kind of hard to be like, well, you go here. I think you gotta, and I think Jordan even brought this up to me with this next game. It's like a group patron, something where you can design some, quest around to try to give you guys some levels because you're starting at a level 1. Level 1 parties are broke.
Yep.
They're definitely leaps and bounds above like common people, but if you get into a decent sized combat, it's most of the time when I've killed somebody, it's been at an early level.
Right.
So that's always tense for me personally. I mean, I'll kill you, but we'll definitely feel bad about it because sometimes we got players who will take a lot of time with their backstories, and then that character's dead.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier to bring you back at higher levels, lower levels, because
very easy.
A lot of money, a lot of influence. If you don't have the right kind of caster in your group, I could go on and wax poetic about that for hours. But I think that just comes with balancing and me learning. I know it was, I gotta do it better. That's where I feel like you're better at with the details of things because you're like, I know what monsters I can get away with or customize at a low level and then go from there.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me it's a little easier to run a game 5th level and higher. So
yes, it's just more difficult to challenge people at that level.
Oh, I know. That's part of the fun though, because like when you get to see you guys do crazy things, like the fight last night with Poseidon, I nerfed him because I thought it might be a little too hard with what I had. That was a mistake because I nerfed him. I forgot to put on he couldn't be, feared, so fear cucked him. Tracy is an enchantment wizard, enchanted a kraken, and I'm like, what do? I didn't want to drop another kraken on him because I was like, man, that just feels like it's too much. So I just tried my best just to roll with it, and you guys end up doing really well. I mean, it just was a really well played encounter by you guys. I don't think it challenged you enough, but at the end of the day, we're at that in-game content. As long as you guys were having fun with it, whatever. At the end of the game, the name of the game is you guys are trying to basically save the world. So it's not like a horror style or anything.
Yeah. Well, with that, we're about halfway through, so we're going to run a quick little commercial break. I'm going to grab a drink, and we will be back in about 3 minutes.
All right, man.
Hey, we're back.
Gatorade. I just read this. Gatorade. No H2O.
Water sucks. Gatorade is better.
Water sucks. Water really
sucks.
Completely off topic, I know.
Yeah, no, we're this D&D podcast is not gonna turn into an Adam Sandler podcast. You can all leave now.
Easily. Right. I just read chat and it was like, he said he felt blue-balled because I didn't finish the story. Okay, so I'll finish the story because I lost track. A DM I watched on YouTube, some DMs get mad if something gets cut. They spend a lot of time and energy because it does take a lot of time. But if you really love it, you don't normally notice until someone goes, "Hey, are you going to do something else today?" And you're like, "Oh, maybe." But he and I think the best advice I saw about that was, just because they didn't go here this time doesn't mean it can't be in a mountain. It can't be the next place that they're going. Use it there. Don't just scrap it. If you got it, keep it on the back end. Tweak your encounters. It's fine. No big deal. But that was basically the end of that story. So my bad. I lost track of what I was talking about. So.
Well, there you go now, Mutt. There's the entire rest of what he had to say.
Right.
With that, we're going to go ahead and jump into your guys' questions. So we'll start off with what we got here on Discord. If there's anything else that's relevant or whatever, you can throw it in chat as well. We'll try and feed off of you guys as much as possible. And then, yeah. So, first question from Brent, from Heimdall Site, in our Discord here. Do you typically have caps in mind for your games before they start? Does this vary much from narrative or open world games? And how good are you at keeping to what you had in mind for the game? It's kind of a three-parter there, I guess. Right. And I think the second one is really like its own question, so I think we'll answer the first part first. Do you normally have level caps in mind for your game before they start?
Nope. Sure don't.
Yeah, I didn't think you did. For me, it really depends. I feel like when I first started DMing, it was just it was the first One Women Adventure Tour game, and it was more or less like, we all want to play. I know, Steve, you had certainly played before, but it had been, what, like 20 years?
And I DM'd for me and a buddy. It was the DM PC and NPCs and him. That was 20 years prior to that, too, so...
And then there were a couple of other people who had played before, but not for a while. And then for most of us, it was like, we've all kind of wanted to do this, and have kind of been feeling it out, and we can finally, like, it was really kind of the first time, so we all just kind of got hooked, and we're like, yeah, of course we want to do this. But, like, there was certainly no idea of what the end goal is. It was just start the game, and then, like, the first time that I really had an idea of, like, finishing, like, how to finish it, has always come, like, somewhere in the middle of the game. So I've never really had an end, like, level cap in mind, unless I'm running a module. So, like, right now I'm running Dragon Heist. Yeah, you guys are going to end at level 5. But, like, from there, it'll probably be the same characters spun off into another adventure, which will take you guys to, like, level 10 or so, and then we'll see from there. I don't really know. But, yeah, that's about all the thought that I've ever given to that.
That's what I was thinking, too, like a module, because Curse of Strahd normally ends around 10 or 11. I think it's fairly open. It has the overarching, this is what you got to find, this is what you got to do.
Yeah, it is. It's really open.
At the end of the day, though, they can still go anywhere in that world that they want. So, but they're going to take the chances of running the random encounters, Strahd, whatever have you. So, but like when it comes to the main game, I mean, I think we've both talked about this before, is sometimes when it's time to end, you just know. It's a feeling. Yeah. Like you've explored every avenue that your characters have in your story, and it's now time to start winding down and get ready for the next campaign. It's really just a feel.
Yeah, and then the second part of it, which does kind of tie in, I think, is how good are you at keeping to what you had in mind for the game? For me, like I'll just answer this first. Other than, there have been a couple of times that I've had like an actual idea, right, for like the actual game. So like Dragon Heist, obviously it's a module, so I'm not really going to count that right now. Outlaws, I had the idea for you guys being like not necessarily evil or anything, but you are like the bandits just trying to survive, and those pesky adventurers are attacking you. I thought that was kind of a cool idea to flip that on its head. And then when I started off with that game, I knew I wanted to have you guys just trying to survive for 5 levels, and at level 5 I wanted you to get a pirate ship, or a ship, whatever. And I stuck to that, but that's all I had. And then after that, it definitely like turned away from being outlaws. Like, you guys didn't do a whole lot of piracy or anything. But yeah. That's really the only game, though, that I've had much of an idea going in. Most of my games, especially because I like to, and I think this is a big difference, because I like to have the open world where you guys go wherever, do whatever you want to. For me, like, I'll write an adventure, and then for like 1 or 2 sessions, and then the like actual story will begin to unfold based on what you guys do and like your ideas. So, for instance, the first session of the Wine Women Adventure Tour, I had a single adventure that I had written that more or less ripped off of a good chunk of the Lost Mines of Phandelver's first chapter or so. And I didn't, like, I had a couple of cool ideas in there that I liked, but I didn't really know where it was going to go. And the party started to speculate on certain things, and I'm like, yep, that's a good idea. I'm going to take that and twist it, and this is now the overarching plot of this entire campaign. And that literally came from party suggestion. Like, I had no idea. So, yeah, that's just kind of the way that I roll. I don't know if Steve has another answer to that.
No, I've done the exact same thing. And sometimes, like, everything begins with like an idea, and then it begins off of like maybe an encounter, where it begins off of an NPC, and sometimes it just grows. Sometimes that's where your ideas start kicking in. You're like, well, I could do this. We could go there. Maybe if I can answer, I think I try to stick to, like, if I have an end game in mind, I'm pretty good at sticking to it. Now, I will always adapt in the game, though. Like, example, Jimmy's arc where we tried to run Storm Kings, and then you guys found the Ring of Winter. Well, that's gone. Yeah. So that's when we had to adapt what we were doing, and we turned it into a plane jump.
I'd say for you, even Jimmy's arc existing in like at all, right? Because your idea, correct me if I'm wrong, but your idea for this campaign was essentially Greek gods are assholes. You guys have to kill them all. Jimmy's arc had nothing to do with any of that. You just made this axe for him that he was obsessed with. So you're like, well, I guess I got to throw in a giant arc somewhere.
Yeah. And that was fun because like like when I talk on my channel, I'm like, content is content. Sometimes it's great content. Sometimes it's mediocre content. Sometimes it's filler. And even the best animes and TV shows have filler. This was filler for us, but it was cool filler. We got to go to like different planes. Jimmy got to have fun from a player perspective because his axe did so much damage. We had some really cool things happen with the Barbarian getting the Ring of Winter. And if anybody knows anything about, the Ring of Winter lore, you don't like characters. It's not something a character, well, unless you're just downright evil, should probably want, because you're going to freeze over the world basically into the game. But it was fun to explore that.
Map Compass Key says, I'm starting to think I prefer low levels. I don't want to fight God. I want to run a tavern and sneak around the sewers. Dude, that is so me. And you know that. I'm totally with you there. I love the low level. Stevie, I know you love the high level more. That actually might be... That actually might not be a bad idea for episode 2, is low level versus high level.
Low level versus high, yeah. I go back and forth because I like to explore them, so...
Yeah, I think one of the things... Screw it, we'll save it for another episode, but because I think there's a lot that can be said on that subject. But thank you for our episode 2 topic now. Mutt the Dragon Breath Tank says in Discord, this is another like 5-parter, so we'll try and break this down. How do you typically plan for games? Average amount of time spent planning for a game? What's your thought process? What's your thought process when planning your games? Do you take in? Well, I'm gonna save the rest of that because that's a pretty quick one. But yeah, like how do you typically plan for games? Average amount of time spent planning them. Kind of the thought process around all that. That's a loaded question, but kind of
really bad. You wanna take that one? Or?
Yeah, I mean, average amount of time really depends. I think early on it was literally if I have a free second, I'm planning. Right now, where I'm at is before session 1, I spend a lot of time making sure I have the world and kind of some preliminary ideas fleshed out. But like, and I'll just take Outlaws for instance, because I think I did a really good job with kind of starting that campaign.
That was good.
I had some really cool ideas that I wanted to play around with, and I had levels 1 through 5 more or less planned out. And that way, by the time that we actually started playing, during the week between each session, I had to. No, I'm not upset about the long questions. I appreciate it. Thank you. Between each session during the week, I would really only need to take a couple hours or so to adjust to anything the party had done, make sure I have encounters balanced, that sort of thing, and then we're good to go because I already knew what was going to happen. And then after level 5, I didn't really know what to do, so I took some time to really kind of flesh out what was going on. Definitely took a long time. I've heard people say average of 1 hour for every 1 hour planning for every 1 hour played. I probably spend more than that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if especially like maybe 1 hour planning per 1 hour played actually during the week, but like when I'm actually planning like the big bulk of things, I mean that's it's a lot. I don't really have a number or anything like that, but it takes a while.
It really varies too. I mean, because there's been streams I've streamed for 8 hours planning, just shooting ideas with people, or just be like, well, that would be cool, and you get right into that creative mode, and sometimes you don't even realize how long you're taking. But then there's the weeks where you've created so much from another planning session to where you might have spent 20 minutes just touching something up because you're like, right. Oh, I changed my mind. I want to do this. Oh, I need to adjust this. It just really varies on like if I think it's easier. Let me try to structure it. I think it's easier from like if it's like a boss grind. I feel like that's a little easier to plan. I don't have as much because that's just straight combat. But when it comes to exploration, narrative, story with the characters, that's where I like to try to tie it in, make it make sense, and that's where I have to have good like note blurbs and try to engage a player. So that's I mean, it really can be anywhere between 3 hours, sometimes 7, and if I'm not planning, I'm thinking. I'm like, well, that would be cool.
Yeah,
just write it down. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Second question in this is, do you so like when you're planning for the games, do you take into consideration party composition, strengths and weaknesses, or do you simply create an encounter and see how the party handles it by using the tools they have given themselves?
Both. I don't like the plan. I don't like the plan against them. The only time I plan against the party is if it's like a higher encounter where there's spies involved, because you never know, they could be in the background, some kind of magic where they could see you in your sleep, learn your secrets, and that's about it. Like I've always been big on party balance myself, but at the same time I don't necessarily plan until like in game where I have no choice, because if you force cage a bad guy, and you're like, oh, that was apropos. You're like, can't do anything with it. It's like, fuck. But yeah, I don't really do that.
I'd say I very rarely take the party composition into account when planning encounters. Every once in a while, maybe I will, but for the most part, when I'm planning an encounter, and this has been more recently, but I take a look at the monster and say, how can I play the monster as fun and engaging and differently as possible? I think 5e has a real problem where monsters are all the same, right? Like a bandit compared to a tribal warrior is almost the exact same stat compared to a guard. Like all three of those are basically the same creature. So how do you play those to where they're different? Even throwing goblin, a goblin is almost exactly the same as a tribal warrior. But if you start to try and get inside the goblin's mindset of, okay, what are they good at? They're good at hiding and being just little pesky creatures. So they're going to try and hide every turn. They're going to try and use their short bows. If the goblin's pulling out that scimitar, something's gone wrong. So that's how I like to plan encounters, is by focusing on my side of it, right? On the monster, and try and get inside their mind, and the party does what the party does. Usually. I would say I like to plan for the party specifically if I'm planning like a puzzle, which I'm not always the greatest at, but like I really like sometimes when like I like giving different players and different abilities chances to shine. Like, I mean, Steve, in all the games you played, how often do you roll a nature check? Right, like
I mean, in the beginning it was a lot, but
no, it wasn't, because you were rolling survival.
Oh, that's right.
You know what I mean?
I never play characters that really do that.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that I've seen nature checks rolled in a campaign.
Yeah, I don't think I've made you guys do it that much either.
Like it is so rare. So like, and I mean that's just one. But like, Arcana checks aren't completely rare, but they don't happen all that often. You know, there's certain skills that just don't get used a whole lot. So if I can instead come up with some sort of puzzle that sure, the party themselves, like the player, can try and figure out, or also like their character could potentially try and figure out. Maybe you know, maybe there's a puzzle where there's 3 strange beasts drawn on this door, and you know, a way to kind of figure it out is to use your character's knowledge of nature to identify the beast that'll go along with like this arcane rune that signifies the same beast or something. I don't know. That's just an idea right there, and that's a way that I can. That's a way that I can be like, man, like the druid's done nothing for a session and a half. I want to give him something, or like we're level 20 and the rogue just feels underpowered right now because he took 2 levels in like sorcerer or something. So like here's something that I can do to make the rogue really stand out, maybe. Right. But that's really the only time that I feel like I plan for the party.
I think the only other thing to that question is like when it comes to encounters, there are some encounters where I make them because you try to put yourself in like the situation. That sometimes they are designed not to be fair. And you just have to just trust. You just have to trust your people and just see where it goes.
Yeah, I agree.
9 times out of 10, it goes well.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Like I'll definitely create situations or encounters where I don't know how they're going to deal with it. So
right, you just don't know.
Well, we are coming up on the end of it here. I think we'll do one more question. So we'll just do them in order. So this way, like next time, we'll just start with
try to pick them back up.
Yeah. So, last question here from Heimdall Sight again. Ooh, that brings another one to mind. Here it is. How do you, as a DM, decide when to let the party talk it out amongst themselves and when to step in and interject / move the narrative?
A good one.
That is a very good one.
Again, I think for me, it's a feel, and I watch the clock. If I feel like they're taking too much time, and I like to let people talk, honestly. I like to see the character development between them and the world, but if it's starting to take a little bit too much time and we do need to move on, I'll try to gently be like, and the next day or whatever, and then, or try to be like, okay, that's what you do. Now I need to check on the rest of the party because I want to make sure I try to hit on everybody as much as I can. So
Yeah, I
that's
think
how
that's
I
good.
do it.
I think you're actually better at this than I am because like I feel like I used to be pretty good at this, but I found myself recently in this spot to where I'm like, are we just stalled here? And just like I
Right.
try and move things forward too much. I feel like, I think the best way to do it is just kind of like have a feel for it. If if the party is just talking in circles and not doing anything, then step in
Yeah,
and move
then
them forward.
right.
And I think watching the clock is smart as well, right? If you've just been bullshitting for 30 minutes, maybe we should probably move forward. I think that's good. But I think, Steve, I think you're a lot better at allowing room for the characters to breathe, and that's something that I definitely feel like I need to work on again. Because like I get in the mindset of we need to move. Things are taking too
Right.
long. I
Easy
have
to
this
get
much
that way,
planned
too.
out, and we're not going to get to it tonight. And I really wanted to get to the spot, and I think that's a problem. I think it's a lot better to err on the side of letting the party.
Let it
Play
be
their
organic.
characters for a while. Yeah,
Right.
I think
Yeah.
I think that's a cool thing when you just like. And again, I haven't done this for a while, and I need to get back into it. But when you can, as a DM, just like take a back seat and let whatever
Yeah,
is happening
let it go.
happen for 15 minutes or so, that's some of the best, because you get to be entertained by your party, by your players, what they're doing.
Right.
They get to understand their character a lot better. Their characters get to interact some, and I think that's a lot easier to do in person, honestly, than online, because online I'm very much aware that I can hear one person at a time, and it's a little bit harder to organically interact with you as a halfling bard, whereas at the table you can just feed off of each other a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that answered that super well. But
I think it kind of did. I mean, it's literally this is this and this. Yeah.
yeah,
I think that was
I'm
good.
just not that great at it.
Yeah, but your
So-
other strengths make up for it, though. I mean, I think it's like when you take two people and you know their strengths and their weaknesses and what they have to work on. It's always going to be a constant labor of love. I know I need to be better at world building, and I'm just not. But
Well, I mean,
that
I don't-
doesn't stop me from trying.
I don't even necessarily know that that's true. Like, I feel like your ability to kind of to improv it and just
Yeah.
kind of go where the story goes, kind of makes up for that. I just don't really have that. So
I think that's just taking your strengths and playing it. And I told somebody this on stream the other day, and this really applies to DMing. If you've never done it before, how are you going to get any better if you don't just try it?
No.
If you don't just work into it and just see where it goes and try to fight some of those instincts and just kind of let it go, but at the same time just develop the internal clock of like, all right, I focus as much on you as I can. And I literally look at it this way: if I don't get to something that night, I'm okay with it. That just means I have extra stuff that I've already got planned waiting to happen. That's less work.
Yeah, and that's definitely a good thing, right? If you can take leftover plan and interject it into next session, that's
Right,
always super helpful.
Steak is steak.
Well, this has been the first episode of the Flycast. Steve, are you streaming today?
I think I may go live here in maybe about a half hour. I think so. I don't know what I'm going to do. I may start off with just chatting, so I have no clue what I'm going to do, but it's Wednesday.
Well, if you want more of that, head on over to twitch.tv/Stevo the DMO right there. He'll probably be live in about a half an hour here. Normally streams here and there throughout the week. We will be back on this channel on Saturday at, I believe we said 6 p.m. Eastern,
Yeah, I think
for
we were starting
a
early.
Starfinder game. Yeah. And then again on Tuesday for a Dragon Heist game. So So until then, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, chilling during the podcast. Once this goes up on the VOD, if you're watching there, thank you so much. We'll be doing this every Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern. So tune in next week for an episode apparently on low-level versus high-level D&D.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Peace out.
Gatorade.